So what I've got here is something else that was found in storage. This is a, I would guess, 1970s era weather radio. Weather Alert brand. And you can see on the back here, Weather Alert model number TA35, complies with FCC rules part 15C, serial number 8, or that's probably B35-00944, made in Taiwan. You can see on the back here there are some extra controls. You can flip the channels, like the different weather radio channels. The one in the middle is the one that has always worked on this one best in this area. And then you have the squelch, which you can turn on and off. I've messed with that, but it doesn't really affect the sound on this one as far as I can tell. And as you can see, it has a telescopic antenna that goes way out. But for the most part, it works just fine with the antenna in its place like that. And at this point, I'll have the Deviant historian drop some knowledge about the history of the weather radio system.
Well, to me, the weather radios are pretty fascinating because most radio communications that you get are commercialized. I'd say ham radio, weather radio, and then there's actually atomic clocks that operate radio-wise. Those are really the three that are non-commercial radio, outside of NPR, if you consider NPR non-commercial. But it's kind of fascinating to read about the coverage area and the economics of this. They started originally in the 1950s as a aviation radio configuration and as a way for pilots to know the weather and all that stuff and what's going on there. And then in the 70s there was the Emergency Management Agency. It's a FEMA spy machine because the Emergency Management Agency funds a lot of this stuff and a lot of these towers.
Spy machine?
Well, yeah, you know, the FEMA, because everybody's like, the FEMA death camps and trailers.
Uh-huh.
And it's
well, we want to make it clear we're being hyperbolic when we say that.
But, yeah, so it was funded kind of through that, and it's kind of interesting, but it's interesting, too, that you give this information, it's accessible at all times, and it's still, people are able to receive it with 40, almost 50-year-old technology that's out over here. And where I work at, every major office, we have warehouses, we have a lot of things like that, they have weather radios, and they have them on battery, and they have them plugged in on electronics. And so whenever anything goes down, it just sounds like the sky is falling whenever there's a weather alert. It gets pretty intense. My mother has one. I actually have one too. I got it at a thrift store for a couple bucks. Mine, it doesn't work without electricity, so it's kind of stupid, I guess, if the power goes out. It's like $1.50. I'm like, yeah, I could use it, but
yeah, this one has an AC adapter jack, but
yeah, it's just kind of interesting, and it's all automated messages now. So now it's like you're talking to a shitty Siri basically to tell you. Danger! Well, what you have to have the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. Get off the chopper!
Well, see, I was going to mention Arnold Schwarzenegger because do you remember the way the weather radio voice used to sound?
Yeah,
it sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. It's like, this is NOAA Weather Radio WXR61. You know, it sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger was the perfect guy for that role, to play a robot essentially, because he sounded just naturally like the robotic voices of the time. Yeah. It also sounded a little bit like the Stephen Hawking voice. Yeah. Except it was lower and a little bit less advanced, you know, so it had more of that, like, kind of almost like an accent. And I actually, personally, for nostalgic reasons, I prefer that voice to the new voice. Yeah. But, and even when they changed it over to the new voice, they still had the old voice for the station identification. Yeah. So they would switch over to that one, but then they would switch back to the more modern one. But I'm going to turn this on in a little bit, but I want to show you the features here, because obviously here you have the volume toggle, but you also have, when you turn it on, and I'll turn it on first.
Wilmington cloudy and 35. Dubuque cloudy and 34. Monticello 36. Muscatine 37. Record cities cloudy and 36.
And what you can do here,
And 38.
if you push that button, that keeps it on alert. So it'll be quiet unless there is a weather alert, and then it'll turn on.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool feature. And then you have...
Cloudy and 49.
That's just the weather feature.
And 35.
But yeah, you can see, I mean, it comes in pretty well. I've noticed that, like, this area isn't, the reception in this specific area isn't very good. But yeah, it's you can still hear it perfectly well even without the antenna pulled out. But yeah, just to reiterate, I did find this in storage, and you can see it's got some wear and tear. But I remember this. We had this like when I was a kid. Like this dates back to, and it dates back to well before my birth, and a lot of fun memories. I've always been kind of fascinated by radio. I used to have like an old CB radio receiver, and I could listen to the truckers on the highway and stuff, and it was pretty fun. But that's pretty much all you... And then, of course, you have the classic, like, fake wood. You've got to love that. Like, everything in the 70s, that was made in the 70s has that kind of fake wood on it. That's kind of fun.
You know what's interesting? They still really push weather radios. Even with all the new technology, the smartphones, the apps, the internet, all that stuff. Like, you go to KCRG, and I actually went to this. It felt like it was almost like a weather radio pilgrimage about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the weather guys from the KCRG station would program your weather radio if you bought it at Hy-Vee. I think I waited an hour and a half in line. You would have thought it was like this celebrity, like...
So the newer ones have to be programmed?
Well, they program it to your specific geographic location. So it would only, instead of saying you're getting the Dubuque stuff, this would only give you the Cedar Rapids stuff. Or the Lynn County, or the Johnson County, or the Benton County, whatever county you're in. So they're able to program it in that, and so you get the blessing of the weather gods of the broadcast network. And, you know, so it felt like it was almost like you're seeing a priest or a pope or something for weather-related blessings. You know? Yeah. It was a weird experience. That's why I called it a pilgrimage.
You have to go to Joe Winters and, like, kiss his ring and, like...
Basically... It's like what
and rub his white hair until the snow comes out of it.
There you go. What brings you here, my son? And you're like the weather Joe Winters, Father Winters of the winter weather. You know,
pantheon of the local weather meteorological pantheon of gods, of deities of the weather.
I need you to bless and protect my family from the tornadoes and from the snow and the ice and all that.
You know what he should do? And we're getting a little off track, but it's fun. He should grow a beard. Like the year before he retires, like when he's set to retire in exactly a year, he should have that last year be no shave retirement year.
Yeah.
And just be clean shaven, but then just let it grow naturally for that whole year. And people will start noticing it on TV, like, whoa, Joe must have had a wild, weekend or something. He forgot to shave. But it just gets longer and longer, and he doesn't speak about it. Like, he will not talk about it. He never makes reference to it. He tells Beth Malicki, bitch, you better not talk about my... It's like, hey, what you got growing there, Joe? Shut up. Don't ask, Like, when we're on the air, don't look at it. Don't make reference to it. Nothing. So, yeah. And so, like, nobody talks about it. People are, like... posting comments on the KCRG site. What's going on? What's going on with? Is he schizophrenic? Does he have like late onset dementia or what? But no, it's never made reference to. It's never responded to. And then on the very last day when he retires, then maybe he could talk about it or something. But like that's he should definitely do that. That would be epic. And it'd be like a kind of a sort of a subtle poke at Bruce Howney for shaving his mustache.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite.
So we've pretty well doxed ourselves at this point, but at least our location. We've doxed our location pretty thoroughly.
I mean, you do groundswell in Cedar Rapids every month, dude. I mean, it kind of...
Yeah, but I mean, like, we've done it really thoroughly in this video.
Yeah, I mean...
Like up and down, left and right. I mean, like...
They know where we can receive our television signal.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm really glad I have this thing. Like, honestly, and I mean, this thing, it's very simple technology. It's like just a simple 70s era transistor radio type thing. So it's unlikely to ever break down or stop working. Have the battery in it, 9-volt battery. Probably, if I don't use it very much, probably lasts for years. And if there's a weather emergency, I can turn this thing on and get the straight dope pretty much instantly. I don't need an app. I don't need a weather radio that I have to program, like have the pantheon of meteorological gods program for me. This thing just turn on.
Look. For today and tonight, no hazardous weather is expected at this time.
Well, that's good to know. No hazardous weather expected. Thank you, Mr. Robot Voice. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that covers everything. You got anything else?
I think that's pretty much it for weather radios, man.
Cool. Yeah, go to your local Salvation Army or whatever, get one of these.